So, as you may well know, on Wednesday, these new, quote, fantastic, amazing trade deals came into force on Wednesday in Australia, where we sent the Australians satchel bags, beanos, and I think that was about roughly it, all the things that Australians can't get. You know? Yeah, this entire trade deal seems absolutely bonkers. And the thing is, just about an hour ago, we got a very interesting news story broke. Because if this is true, then this entire Australian trade deal was essentially scrawled on the back of toilet paper. And one of the interesting things was that apparently negotiator went in and told Liz Truss that her boss has given away the keys to the kingdom. So this entire debacle for the Australian trade deal, how bad it is, may not be entirely the fault of Liz Truss. As incompetent as Liz Truss is, Boris Johnson may also be very much to blame for this, how bad this trade deal is. Well, and as I've said earlier this week when we were talking about those trade deals, look, these trade deals like this, they become big politics. And we are about to find out how big these politics become. Because if you look at any other country, this is a lot of the stuff that they talk about very often. Trade deals that they sign. Can they alter this? Can they do that? It's big politics. So, and oh boy, as we said before, the farmers are not happy. The farmers are not happy at all. But let's get into this because, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What a fantastic negotiator Boris Johnson turned out to be, where he apparently just scrolled it all on the back of toilet paper. What? So, before we do get into this, please do remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's a YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. Oh boy, let's get on into this, because this comes from The Independent with the title of How Boris Blundered into a £10 billion Australian trade deal concession scrawled on paper in the loo. Oh boy, oh boy. So, Boris Johnson blundered into a critical Brexit trade deal concession with Australia over a chaotic dinner with the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, at number 10, it was claimed today. He was bounced into signing a disastrous post-Brexit agreement after the Australians seized on the schoolboy howler over a meal over meat import quotas during the negotiations. An Australian official made an excuse to go to the Downing Street loo and had Mr. Johnson's concession apparently hurriedly drawn up into a formal agreement and then took it back to number 10, where then the then PM signed it before the dinner with Mr. Morrison actually ended. And to cap it all, Johnson is said to have told the Australians he was doing it because he wanted to apologise to them for Britain joining the EU 50 years ago. Oh my God. This is just... That's not how you do trade deals. Here's the thing, Australians, they don't care. They don't care that we left to join the EU 50 years ago. They're fine where they are. They really didn't need the UK. So they were fine. But to do this to, oh my word. Honestly, I've just got no words. And then it gets even better. A then furious Liz Truss, the International Trade Secretary, tried to unstitch the deal, but was told by the gleeful Australians that her boss, Mr. Johnson, had already given away the kingdom. The extraordinary account of how Britain's post-Brexit trade deal with Australia, condemned as a complete sellout by British farmers, was handled by Mr. Johnson, appealed on the Politico website. And according to a report on the 14th of June, the 2021 dinner, Johnson agreed to measure beef imports by the weight of only cuts of meat rather than the entire cow, which is much heavier. And this is why trade deals are important. It's stuff like this that means now Australia can dump thousands of cheap meat on here, which will completely screw up our entire farming industry and completely sell it down the river. So Boris Johnson and the Conservatives have just pretty much destroyed UK farming. With that, this is not why you do trade deals in like less than 6 months. So the Australian High Commissioner, George Brandis, scrolled down the unexpected bonus and then fled to the loo to give an aid to photograph and turn it into a trade document before it was returned to the dinner for Mr. Johnson to sign. Truss was said to be livid when she had learned of Mr. Johnson's concession over breakfast the following morning. Your boss has already conceded the whole kingdom, Australia's chief negotiator, Dan Tellem, told her. And according to a former minister involved in the talks, Mr. Johnson described the Politico story as rubbish, but the website has said it has spoken to 5 senior people involved in the negotiations on either side. And Brexit negotiator David Frost was also at the dinner with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Morrison. And one former Truss advisor said Frost was over the detail, but I don't think Boris was. Adding that the dinner was very slapdash and ultimately ended up giving more on beef. Advisors said that Mrs. Truss wanted to talk to respond after Mr. Johnson's concession, but then Mr. Johnson threatened to, quote, tell the media that the UK was going back on its first post-Brexit trade deal. God damn! This is how international negotiations are carried out. And we warned you multiple goddamn times what was going to happen. How inexperienced we really are in this type of negotiations, that these negotiations are very stuff to do that. So, of course, he was going to go out to the media and say that. Oh, my God. So advisors then said that Miss Truss wanted to then reopen these talks after Mr. Johnson's concession. But Mr. Johnson then believed in agreeing to more generous tariffs because the UK had let Australia down by joining the EU in the 1970s, according to an ex-minister. That doesn't matter. That doesn't care. That doesn't matter at all. It really doesn't. UK government lawyers then reportedly would continue to try and quibble with the Australian side over the beef import weights until the deal was then signed in December of 2021. Some degree of compromise was achieved by making sure that the agricultural safeguard was designed to slow imports after 10 years if there is a rapid surge. The use of the carcass weight and equivalents initially wanted by British officials. But the post-Brexit trade deal, which is coming to force this week, is forecast to boost bilateral trade between the countries by about £10 billion. But farmers remain angry at the generosity of the tariff-free quotas to given access to Australian free beef. And here's the thing, £10 billion is nothing. It is absolutely nothing. Sounds like a big number to you and I, but when you're talking big international trade, 10 billion, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like I say, this original trade deal, what is it, 0.02%? It's nothing. It's really nothing, considering what we've given up by leaving the EU. So the National Farmers Union and President Marie Batters said that the concessions were a real breach of trust and confidence for farmers, saying that the anger is still visceral. A spokesperson for the NUF added, "We know the government gave away much more than they needed to, and this illustrates it." Mr. Johnson and the government have been approached for comment, and of course, they haven't even commented. Yeah, wow. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Um, Yes, Conservative Bay will give you everything you want in a trade deal, Australia. We're sorry we left you to join the EU. Please take more of our beaners. You haven't seen the funnies of the antics of Dennis the Menace. That will get you to give up more of your trade to us. Soon, all Australian trade will be mine. Thank you to the economic power of the beaner. What do you say? What do you say in response to this? Oh, other than the government was absolutely incompetent. Boris Johnson was absolutely incompetent, and Liz Truss even more so, because she could have, knowing full well, coming from a farming community, could have really fired back against Johnson, really fired back and said, "Oh, she could have done so much stuff if she wanted to." But again, I don't really think so. She's not that competent herself. But oh my word, and I don't know how much more stuff will come out about this, but oh my. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying those beanos and those leather satchels, Australia. Because God Almighty, what an absolute shambles! What an absolute omni shambles, to quote Malcolm Tucker. Yeah, I don't even know how to end it, but yeah, hit the like, hit the share button. You know the rest, and we'll see you all next time. But my word.